Good morning, my magnificent ones. Sue here, your magnificence mentor, back with another episode of Tea with Sue. This is episode 35. Wow, I remember being 35. Time flies, especially when you're having a good deal of fun. Well, today I wanted to address the topic of anxiety. So anxiety is one of those chains that binds us. So interestingly enough, I came across a very cool article written by a gal by the name of Wendy Suzuki. Now, she's a neuroscientist who works out of the University of New York University. She's been researching anxiety. And I found, so the article was about the 6 things that she does to build resilience and really increase her excuse me, to really increase her ability to function better. And so I read these points with great interest because I don't know about you, but I seem to be surrounded by people who are very anxious about all manner of things. It's really quite intriguing to me how we can get ourselves into knots, or we can feel bound by circumstances to the point where we don't know where to turn, and we're worried, or we're frustrated, or we're confused, or we're stressed, or all of those labels. We're sad, we're mad, we're all of it that keeps us from living the magnificent life that we most long for, that we truly desire. So I liked her way of tackling things because it wasn't about, oh, well, just get rid of your anxiety. I'm not so sure it's that easy to do. So, but what she talks about is building the resilience muscles in the brain so that you're not swamped by the negativity. So, for example, how many times has fear stopped you in your tracks? I can remember the first time I ever had to get up in front of people and speak. I felt somewhat paralyzed. But because I didn't want to embarrass myself by not having anything to say, somehow that fear overcame the fear of standing up at the front of the room. And so I was in deep denial about my fear, let me tell you, for a long time, because I liked the applause. And I knew at the end of it, there would be such a sense of relief because I was done, that I did it. And so in not allowing the fear to debilitate me, to say, okay, this is something new. I don't know how to do it. I'm really scared. I can feel it vibrating in my, the butterflies in my tummy, or the pounding of my heart. But it doesn't have to stop me in my tracks. And so my thing is always, well, feel the fear and do it anyway, whatever it is that you're doing. So when my son wanted me to go on Space Mountain at Disney World, I did not want to go. I'm not a great fan of those kinds of rides and roller coasters and so on. It just gives me the heebie-jeebies. And I felt the fear. Well, I did it anyway. I have to say, I was pretty graceless about it. I did not take it in good stride. And they never, my former husband and my son never asked me to go again, because they knew that was not my thing. And it was for them. It was a great joy and delight. And I said, you carry on, do your thing. But I did try it. And then I confirmed that, no, I don't think I want to do that again. So so when she talked about building this resilience and building our it's like coping mechanisms, all right? So think about how anger can really stop us from moving forward. We can't think straight because this flood of emotion, and we're just so tight with that anger that we don't know where to turn. And it can be very debilitating. However, I have found that in some of my angriest moments, because anger has a great deal of energy attached to it, right? So it can spur us to do things that we wouldn't have otherwise got done. So a crazy example would be, when my kid didn't pick up like I asked him to, and the place is in a mess, and he's nowhere to be found, and I'm so angry. And as I'm working through this anger, I just start picking stuff up and putting it away and doing this and doing that. And pretty soon, the house is clean, the house is tidy. I feel much better because I've worked through the anger. I put it into a productive channel. All right. I wasn't destructive about it. So it's how can you be productive in the anger? And then, of course, I'd have an opportunity after that to deal with whatever transgressions I felt that had occurred in the household. So it's interesting how much power that we have to make a difference in our lives despite the circumstances that are going on. So when I think of anxiety as an example, I never considered myself to be particularly anxious, but I have found that the uncertainties that have been going around and around in our world right now, and in my world right now, in relation to, the city we live in has now said, well, we're going to go back to masking indoors in public places now because the virus has hit the fourth wave, and the numbers are rising and more people are getting sick. And so I'm going, oh no, I was just enjoying this taste of freedom again. And so the idea of going back to masking isn't very palatable to me, and yet it's required. So there's a part of me that would just say, I'll just stay home then. I'm just going to cocoon, and maybe the world will go away if I just go inside. But that's not practical. It's not useful. And quite frankly, it's not helpful, because the more I isolate, the less easy it is to get up my courage to venture out, because I had already been finding that the months and months of isolation wore me down to a point where I wasn't my usual bouncy, vibrant self. And when I go out, all I wanted to do was get home. And so, which was unusual for me, because usually when I go out, I'm free and I'm going here and I'm going there. So it was hard. So we need to look at what do we have in our own internal arsenal that we can draw on to change the behavior, to change whatever it is that has the potential to debilitate us, so that we can get out of that. We can, it's almost like sometimes we're bound by chains and chains and chains of expectations and limiting beliefs and emotions that don't serve us very well. So this is the point that we want to look at. So I'll give you a couple of the suggestions, and these are practices that Wendy does every day to help build her brain plasticity. So that's a hard one to say, brain plasticity. So we don't want our brains all dry and crunched up and fragile. We want them plastic and elastic. So one of the things that she suggests is to try something new. Every time we try something that we've never tried before, it opens up the neural pathways in our brains and gives us more resilience because our brains like learning new things, and they go, oh, we don't know about this, and so it helps us. And it doesn't matter if we do it badly at first, whatever the new is. I remember trying Sudoku for the first time. I'm not a math person, and numbers, I like numbers when there's dollar signs attached, but as far as working with numbers, it's a little harder for me, and it's not my favorite thing. But I was intrigued to see the patterning and if I could do it. Well, I did it really badly to start with. And in fact, badly enough that after a little while, I thought, okay, this is too frustrating and I don't want to do it anymore. But at least I tried it. And then my daughter-in-law showed me, they had an online Sudoku game. And she said, well, try this game instead, because I'd been using the paper version. And if I made a mistake, it just blew everything up and I couldn't carry on very well. So I tried the or the online version, and I'm going, oh, this is easier. And so it caught my attention again. And I'm thinking, well, if I persist, I probably can do this. So trying something new, whether it's get out, learn a new dance, or learn how to garden, or I mean, there's a myriad of things that we can do that will challenge us, things that we've never done before. So play games with your kids, and they'll teach you new games that you didn't know before that will be fun. And you can, if you're quotes bad at it, so what? At least you're out there expanding your horizons, and that's what it's all about, is that we want to and that's one of the ways we loosen the chains, is by just pushing a little bit and pushing a little bit, pushing a little bit. And pretty soon we have more freedom than we ever thought we had. So that was one of the things that she said. She echoed two things that are very near and dear to my heart, and one of them is reaching out. We are not meant to be on planet Earth alone. We are meant to be together. We are meant to connect with one another and embrace each other's ideas, dreams, goals, thoughts, emotions. It's all part of the human experience. So, but I find, and especially with this pandemic, people have become far too isolated. It's easier to just, it feels easier anyway, to sit in your little space and not bother anybody else and not be bothered by anybody else. But the more we do that, the less easy it is to reach out. So it's so important to start forging. If you don't have close friends, I am so blessed that I have so many friends that I can reach out to in a variety of ways for all kinds of support. And in turn, they know they can reach out to me for all kinds of support in different ways. So think about who you have in your life that you can count on. Somebody that we need people to be able to share our deepest yearnings and secrets and so on with. And we need other people that we might be able to just do giggly, frivolous things with. Whatever that looks like for you, then see who you have, people to laugh with, people to shed tears with, people to engage in lively discussions about what's going on in the world and how we might solve it and so on. So we need each other. and isolating and being fearful or suspicious of those around us, is particularly strangers, right? I mean, when was the last time you reached out and talked to a stranger? I know I was brought up with, oh, don't talk to strangers, because as a little person, that was a potentially dangerous thing to do. Well, of course, it isn't really that dangerous in most instances. And but we get into this habit of, oh, I don't know that person. They maybe they look a little suspicious to me, or oh, they don't dress the way I dress, and so I'm just going to back off. Or what if I get rebuffed, or what if they get mad because I've reached out, or whatever. Well, it's been rare in my life that me reaching out to a stranger hasn't resulted in something very positive, whether it's a smile from the other person, whether it's a pleasant comment about the weather. And I know in some cases, I've made that person's day just simply because I reached out. There's a lot of seniors and elders in our population who are absolutely starved for attention, for people to reach out. You know, we become grumpy old people when we don't get enough of that kind of attention, when no one reaches out to us. So there's plenty of people that you can reach out to, and that you can encourage to reach out to you as well, so that we can support each other, so we can work through the uncertainties that are going on in our lives and find some kind of equilibrium, so that we're not either exploding this way or down in the deep, dark depths of despair. So, oh boy, who needs that, right? That's not living heaven on earth as far as I'm concerned. That's just the opposite. So anytime, so check out your support system. Who do you have on board? Some people are very fortunate to have lots of family who are very close, and that's wonderful. If you don't have family either close by or you're not close, then it's even more crucial to find people who are your tribe. Find those people that you can connect with and relate to. I've just decided that if someone fits in my life, I'm adopting them. I don't care if I only met them last week and I don't know a tremendous amount about them, and we're not related in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't matter to me. If they fit in my life and I fit in theirs, then I'm going to embrace that and welcome them in. So support is just crucial when it comes to building that resilience, so that no matter what life throws at us, and it throws a lot, doesn't it? There's times when we just get blindsided by nasty things that then we're left to deal with. Well, how do we do that? Well, reaching out is one way to do that. And excuse me, a little frog in my throat this morning. Mark Victor Hansen wrote a book called Eat That Frog. and it was about time management, right? And he said, if you eat a live frog first thing in the morning, nothing worse will happen to you for the rest of the day. I'm quite a visual person, and the idea of swallowing a live frog kind of set me off. But anyway, he was talking about do your most difficult task first thing in the morning, and then everything else will come easier for you. And so every time I think of having a frog in my throat, I think of his little comment. Anyway, but I digress. Now, the last thing I wanted to share with you today, as far as the resilience building strategies, and this is one of the other things that Wendy does, is she says, get out into nature, connect with nature. Now, you don't have to go to, a big forested area or or necessarily go to the mountains if it's not convenient for you. I'm 3.5 hours away from the mountains, but I don't have very far to walk before I'm in the trees. I just have to take my garbage out, and there's a whole bunch of trees and a little walkway just right in my complex. So I can be right next to nature. I can hug a tree easy. And it's just, will I do it or not? Will I get out into nature? Because there's something about the energy and the vibration of nature that soothes and helps us come to a level of peace. So if you just ever sat in the grass and looked out at the vista in front of you, whatever was in front of you in a park or on a bench somewhere, and just, or you're on the beach and your feet are in the sand and the water's lapping on the shore, anything to do with nature, just be, and we're part of nature, right? But we get disconnected by the cement. We get disconnected by steel structures and buildings around us. So it becomes critical to get out and reconnect with nature in a way that suits you, in a way that soothes you. So for example, if the weather's not that great and I'm not feeling like going for a walk, I just step out onto my balcony, because I planted lots of flowers on my balcony this year and one strawberry plant. So I go out and check my strawberries and see if there's any ready for the picking. And if there are, I just revel in the taste of this fresh berry that I grew, right? Or at least I planted. The plant grew it, but you know what I mean. I water my flowers. I pick off the dried leaves and so on, and stick my fingers in the dirt to see how much water they need. Well, it just gives me a great deal of pleasure, and even if it's only for 5 minutes, I've connected with something living, something that breathes just as I do. So nature is a huge blessing, and particularly when we've been cooped up for so long, then the wide open spaces, the fresh outdoors, all of that becomes very, very essential to that elasticity in the brain and really serving ourselves and our bodies in a better way. When we adopt those practices and we do them often, then it's no different than the physical muscles that build up when you've been doing an exercise consistently over time. Then not only does it help physically, but the mental ability to move out of a less desirable state happens much faster. It doesn't take you long. So if I'm sad, it doesn't take me long to move to happy, because I have the coping mechanisms in place and I've practiced enough. Oh, I remember what happy's like. Oh, well, how can I shift my emotions from sad to happy? And consistently doing that just enables me to do it faster and more effectively. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. So I really want to encourage you this next week to think about how you can shift away from the negativity and the negative aspects of anxiety and all the components of anxiety, the stress, the worry, and so on, into making that work for you, making that, if I'm scared about my finances, for example, then instead of just sitting there worrying and worrying and worrying and worrying, I might want to take a look at my budget and say, oh, well, what might I be able to eliminate as far as my spending? Are there some other ways that I can bring more income in? It's a very productive use of that worry or that fear in that moment. You know you can do this, my magnificent friends, because you are that magnificent. Enjoy your weekend. Here we are in September already, and it's a glorious day here. The sun is shining. I plan to get out in nature and just revel in the day. take the best care of you, love you beyond all measure, and have a magnificent weekend. If you like these videos, you can subscribe to my channel. You can also download the Magnificence Mentor app for free. If you've missed 34 of the episodes, this is your first time here, then the content is on the app and it's free for you to use. Bye for now. See you next week, everyone.